All right. Good morning, everybody. It's Monday. Probably going to need a few cups of coffee today. But it's day 3 of 100 days of cloud. So in this stream, we're going to finish up the modern infrastructure as code with Pulumi workshop. We made it through module 1, 2, and 3, and then we're just going to finish up with module 4 here. And yeah, so I'm going to dive right into it. So in the previous modules, module 1, we walked through setting up a, hold on, it's kind of loud. Turn on some music a little bit. Module 1, we set up the S3 bucket with like a static website, which was cool. And then module 2, we provisioned a EKS, Elastic Kubernetes service cluster. And then module 3, we actually deployed like an application on top of the EKS cluster. So it looks like in this module, we're gonna create infrastructure components with Kubernetes. So before it was kind of like templated a little bit, like scripted, you know, where it's kind of like a one-for-one type of one-to-one type of like resource to like deployment. But I expect we'll create like more reusable components and then go from there. So, all right, let's dive right in here. So in this lab, you'll extract a common Kubernetes infrastructure of creating both a deployment and a service pattern into a reusable service deployment component. This lab builds on the final state of the deploying applications to EKS lab. So you're encouraged to do that lab first. This lab assumes that you have an EKS Kubernetes cluster up and running. If you do not have a cluster yet, please complete deploying EKS cluster lab first. Well, darn it. In the last section of the module 3, you go through like destroying your infrastructure. So that kind of sucks. So I guess we are gonna, well, I mean, come back here. Is that just module 2? So what did we name module 2? Is this the EKS infrastructure? Yeah, I think it was. Well, look, since we already have it deployed, let's just cd into EKS structure. What happens if we run a Pulumi up? Yeah, I think so. If we go, I'm still using the same Cloud9 instance. So luckily, had the directory from module 2 still here. So let's go ahead and deploy it. Whoops. All right. So while that's deploying again, maybe there's some like initial setup that we can do. Okay, we already have the EKS infrastructure directory. Oh wait, sorry, that's still module 2. Wow, I'm struggling on a on a Monday morning here. Niners won the football game yesterday, so they blew out the Giants. So had a little too much fun, I guess. Okay, so all right, so that was module 2, deploying the EKS infrastructure. We're on module 4. Let's see. Let's see what it wants us to do. Okay, so we're gonna open a new terminal. And then we'll cd into EKS demo apps. Okay, yeah, and this is like the code that we have from the previous module still up here. Note that there's quite a bit of boilerplate here. In fact, there are really 4 things that can be customized for this particular workload. The image to use, the number of replicas, also. Okay, so yeah, it seems like we're gonna like refactor this a little bit to make it more reusable, I'm assuming. The port mappings, the namespace to create the service and deployment inside. And this lab will create a component that only requires specifying these 4 things, abstracting away all of the boilerplate and complexity behind a simple interface for this common pattern. Okay. To create our component, first create a new file called servicedeployment.ts. So we'll import these packages again. And export interface service deployment. Oh, this is cool. Okay. So we're just creating like input parameters or something. So, in class, service deployment extends Pulumi component resource. Just trying to, I guess we're just trying to track as much as we can so like the actual index.ts doesn't look as busy, I'm assuming. Structure name is a string. Arcs is service deployment. Arcs options. Component resource options. Bag of optional settings that control the component resources behavior. All right. So the service deployment args interface is the arguments will allow to be passed to the component. So namespace, replicas, image, import. The service deployment class is a component resource, meaning it's kind of a Pulumi resource that can manage other resources. In our case, it will create and manage a service and a deployment. It will have three output properties for the service, the deployment, and the URL of the service as a convenience. First, we'll add the deployment. Add the following. Okay, we didn't include the to-do section, but so we create app labels. Labels. Oh, it's inside of the constructor. That's what I was saying. Oops. So we need to put this inside of the constructor. Okay. And then now this deployment equals new k 8 apps. Deployment. Okay, so now we do metadata. Namespace. Bars. Namespace. Sec. Match. Words. 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 So is that this means it's defaulting to 1. I was just giving us an error. Oh, I'm not done yet. It this name image is something we get from cards. Okay, so this code is nearly the same as what we have in our index.tf with 3 main differences. We use the name of the component as the app label. Okay. Okay. And then we use the provided replicas or set default to 1. So that's here. We pass parent this to indicate that the resource is a child of the service deployment component. So this is a child of the class service deployment. Next, we need to do the same for our service. Add the following code after deployment. So okay, so we this service equals new creates core new service. All right, and then we add the spec. And I'm just gonna copy and paste these like outputs. Yeah, I mean it's basically the same thing as the index.ts. It's just obviously we're just abstracting away a lot of uh, the boilerplate stuff so that it makes it cleaner. So again, so like it says on the workshop, this is very similar to what we have in the index.ts. We decide to be a little more opinionated here. We can choose how flexible we want our new component to be depending on the needs of the project and team. just like when we design APIs in our software projects and require that we expose just a single port and that there's a HTTP service exposed on that port. We could, of course, customize this further if needed. All right. So now we created the component resource. Now we can actually use it in the index.ts. So start by deleting all of the code in index.ts. So we keep this, we keep this, we keep this, we keep provider, keep namespace. Okay, so just get rid of, okay, yeah. So line 16, oh yeah, all the way down. And then we import our component. This imports the component we just defined. Now we'll create an instance of this component that matches what we had previously. Okay. So const bootcamp source component. So I think if we look at this, it's trying to see if it could give us some type of like IntelliSense for like the available properties of this instance, but no problem. So now we're just passing in the values of those parameters to our component. Thousand get port 8080. Oh, I forgot to output the URL. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Like now we've went from you know uh, almost 50 line. Well, no, not quite, but what is that? 20 something lines of code. Kind of boilerplate code that we've abstracted into this component that we can reuse here in our index.ts, and it um, you know brings it down to just a handful of lines to deploy a service onto our cluster. Just looks cleaner. Cool. So let me just double check on that. Okay, so yeah, we have our EKS cluster there. So now we just write Pulumi up. I deleted this stack last time. Whoops. To create a stack in the organization, use. Okay. I think my organization name is B Gringo, so it's B Gringo. Say dev. Yeah. Very helpful error message there from Pulumi. That's always nice to, you know, forget to do something, and at least it's very, very, very helpful. uh, this was from module 3, wasn't it? Yeah. So we had to add the stack reference so that we can deploy the apps on top of the cluster, right? Like um, this app needs to know the stack to deploy the cluster. Okay, yeah. So we need to point this to Gringo EKS infrastructure. Then now if we run pull me up, it should work. So now we'll deploy this application on top of this cluster over here. It will take a few seconds for the load balancer to be ready, but once it is, you can curl the URL to see the same application running again. I'm kind of curious, like, it is an ELB or ALB, huh? So, like, if I go go over to EC2 real quick and see. Just curious, like I can't believe just that one line there says it can deploy a load balancer, but it does. Look at that. Ah, but it's a classic ELB. Interesting. I wonder if you could um, specify like an ALB instead. So if we look at the instances, it says it's out of service. Interesting. That must be for the pod. So the host listens on 3000 and forwards it to the pod. Oh, there goes. It changed in service now. Very interesting. Like it does your security group and everything. That's cool. Okay, so if we hit this guy, I like opening in a browser. Nice. I like it. That's very cool. Definitely don't think it's as easy as like you gotta definitely like learn how to identify um, those boilerplate areas that you can like build into a component. But I mean, obviously, it's very useful because uh, it's easier to remember how to write, you know, three different um, parameters than to remember to write, you know, all of this boilerplate. So I definitely see the advantages there. Very cool. All right. Favorite part of the workshop, get to destroy things. So um, yeah, definitely don't forget to destroy the EKS cluster. It's a lot of resources there. But one thing I'm interested to see is, so I'm guessing that hmm, I just the load balancer thing still just kind of blows my mind a little bit. Like how it knows to use an ELB uh, here. So I'm assuming now like that we just deleted that resource or that the application that deletes the load balancer. Hmm. So it's like one load balancer per like application. I thought you'd have like one load balancer as part of the cluster, and then you would point your application to the load balancer. Maybe that's another component to like abstract, but anyways, um, Okay, so go back to the EKS infrastructure directory and remember to Pulumi and destroy. The application probably doesn't cost much, but this definitely costs some cheddar. All right. Ooh, additional content. This is cool. Wow. Bonus material. I love it. Argo CD. What's Argo CD? I don't know what Argo CD is. Well, that's cool. Bonus material. Awesome. Well, it looks like we can keep going. Too bad I just deleted this, but yeah, I think we'll stop here. I mean, we finished module 4. Looks like we got some other additional workshops that we can continue with, and looking forward to that. So let's keep it going. Thanks for watching. Bye.